Hello and welcome to this review of Reverie Knight's Tactics. This game can be described as a turn-based, story-driven tactical RPG set in a hand-drawn fantasy world. There is the option to choose between story mode and normal mode, depending on the challenge you want. Duration approximately 15 hours. In this review I discuss the basic aspects of the game and how it's perceived on the Nintendo Switch. I post new reviews every week about current games, so feel free to subscribe to stay updated with the latest releases for Nintendo Switch. And at last I received a review copy of this game, and with that said, let's take a closer look at Reverie Knight's Tactics. One of the most important aspects of a role-playing game is the narrative. If the story is appealing, you usually have a good experience ahead of you. In Reverie Knight's Tactics, the Elven City has been occupied by hobgoblins. An expedition of clerics set out on a journey to document what happened. Unfortunately, the company never comes home again, and it's now up to our hero, Aurora, to find the missing company. She is not alone. Along the way, she meets companions who accompany her on her journey. For example, Helaron, a healer, Brigandine, a tank, and Fren, a typical melee DPS. But the relationships are not always the best. Your decisions in the story matter. There is a chaos and order bar that is governed by your decisions. In the dialogues you often get options to choose from. They affect the relationship with those you talk to. I usually went on instinct and chose the most reasonable option. I guess that led to me being perceived as a leader. At least none of my companions chose to leave. I think the chaos and order system is quite interesting. It creates a little nerve and that you think through your decisions. What can be the best possible choice to keep the group together and be able to collaborate? This game is a story-driven experience in every possible way. It's extremely text-heavy, no matter where you are in the game. A new dialogue lurks around the corner. Discussions are held in the camp, before the battles, after the battles, in the forest, in the mine, and in the city. Yes, wherever you are, it doesn't take long before someone has something to say. Sometimes it can be meaningful and necessary to converse in order to make the story progress or to get new items, but sometimes it's just too much. There are too many interruptions. In terms of gameplay, it mainly consists of 4 game modes. First you have the dialogues I just talked about, then you have the map system and all the places you visit. Here it's point and click that applies. The third is different puzzles, and the fourth all fights. The maps are very streamlined and offer few options. There is usually only one direction to go, so there is not much to explore really. On the other hand, you visit different places where you interact with different things or talk to different people. There are also some puzzles, for example, unlocking chests or putting together correct patterns. The puzzles are fun and can be a little tricky. This puzzle was so frustrating. It took a while before I figured out how to do it. It was a bit cryptic. I wish there were more puzzles though, because I honestly think they are one of the best aspects of the game. It's definitely a nice break from all dialogue and requires thinking. The combat is turn-based and seen from an isometric perspective. You move your squad on a grid system and try to knock out your opponents. Those who played games from the Disgaea series will recognize themselves. You can fight one against one, but there is the opportunity to group up yourself and make super attacks. This is actually fun because the attacks do a lot of damage, plus you get to see different animations depending on who is participating in the attack. The degree of difficulty also feels well balanced. Gradually you meet more and stronger enemies, but at first you fight weaker enemies called Dogblins and Scholars. They are pretty easy to kill and not very scary. It becomes more difficult when you fight specters and various demons. Sometimes it requires joint attacks to do damage. I find it entertaining. It's necessary to find out the weak points of the enemies and how to eliminate them. This game doesn't really require any good control, but, well, the mouse pointer moves well, at least on the Nintendo Switch. It's also easy to move around your men on the battlefield. It's more about doing tactical, well thought out moves than doing quick, intricate maneuvers. So this game isn't really depending on a good control. But it works fine just the way it is. The graphics are hand-drawn and quite nice actually. You move in different environments that look imaginative. The forest, the mines, a city, the garden and the palace. I think the Elven City looks especially good. It's detailed and has nice color combinations. In the fights there are a lot of animations that contribute to the variation, especially the animations that are played when you make joint attacks. The fight scenes also follow the same theme as the environment you are in. Here I am down in the mine, and the fights take place among rocks, dynamite and mine railways. The game feels well put together graphically. In the game you meet a couple of different bosses. They differ from the usual fights and may require some tactics, like this Train of Death for example. You have to be constantly on the move, eliminate the enemies and move down, otherwise the train will run over you and you risk dying. Unfortunately there are only a few fights of this kind. I wish there were more, for this kind of content makes the game more entertaining. Other aspects that are worth mentioning are that you have a level up system, which means that you can place points in might, finesse and defense. You also get new skills that allow you to experiment with your characters. This is quite fun and allows you to try it out to see which skills suit you the best. Otherwise, the menus are easy to understand and everything is explained in a good way. After each combat you get experience points and something called Cogni. Cogni acts as a currency to buy gear. But we are not talking about armor or cool swords, but rather about amulets and charms. The jewelry makes one stronger and helps you to customize your party as you want it. It's also possible to visit a chef. He cooks dishes that can be useful in combat, for example muffins that restores one's entire health pool and mana. Reverie Knight's Tactics is a game that can be both challenging and tricky. Above all, I appreciated the game's puzzles and all the battles. Unfortunately, I wish there were more puzzles. They are too few, but the battles are fun and it's especially interesting to position yourself and defeat your enemy with strong group attacks. The game flows well. I didn't detect any slowdowns or crashes. On the Nintendo Switch it works well both to play docked and in handheld. In true RPG style, you have to be prepared that the game contains a lot of dialogues, and this game contains extreme amounts of text. Sometimes it gets a little frustrating because you get interrupted a little too often. In terms of replayability, there is the possibility to play through the game on different levels of difficulty, but since the game is story driven, you should not expect any major differences a second time. Expect that the fights are more challenging though. But if you like turn-based tactical RPGs, then this game might be worth checking out. Please subscribe to my channel for more reviews and other content. Have a nice day. Bye.